unveil the magic bullet. Folks, this is what you've been waiting for. You've been looking under stones, around corners, trying to find what is the magic bullet? What is that shiny object that is actually going to get me the business that I want? Well, let me tell you, it's maybe not what you hope to hear, but it is one word. It is a simple concept, but it can be difficult to implement. It's consistency. And today we're going to actually have a very special guest on, someone who I have the utmost respect for. And she teaches this. This is what she coaches on, is 3 keys to consistency. And that actually is going to be today's topic. We're going to go deep on that to where you walk out of today's episode, not just believing that consistency is so important to you, but actually knowing how to do it better. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great episode. The big question is this: how do those of us in the real estate industry with crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we simultaneously seek success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard, and this is the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. All right, welcome back, everybody. Very excited to be with you and introduce, again, someone who's become a friend of mine, someone who I look up to and admire, someone who coaches on consistency. Her name is Melissa. Melissa, so grateful to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about this conversation.
Now, I know in the past, I've actually said your name incorrectly, and normally I just call you by your first name. So I refrained from saying your last name there, so I wouldn't butcher it. Tell us, how do you pronounce your last name?
Machat.
I knew I was good. That's not how I was going to pronounce it. So I'm so glad I asked Machat. Melissa, my friend who I know as Melissa Machat, thank you so much for coming on today. Let's dive right into this. In fact, let's tell a little bit of your background. You, at one point, ran a very big and productive real estate team. And I remember following your journey closely because you are back on the show. And I remember you talking about, like, I think maybe this isn't healthy for me. Like, I don't know that this is the right move for me. I need to prioritize some things in my life.
Yes.
Kind of talk to us about that decision to pull out from leading a big productive real estate team when, for many people, that's what they aspire to. That's what they dream of, right? Talk us through that.
I feel like this could be hours, and I'm going to make it as short as I can. But the long story short is, I always had a dream of removing myself from production. I wanted to build a business that ran with or without me. For whatever reason, I had some life things happen back in like 2016. And that was I realized I was running a business 100% depending on me showing up, getting on the phones every day, finding listings, feeding my agents. And I had kind of a wake-up call of like, this isn't really what I want. This isn't sustainable. If God forbid something happens to me, like, what I'm in trouble. And so I started making all these big changes to figure out how to build a team, become a leader, and step out of production. And when I was on last, I want to say it was beginning of 2021, right when I was removing myself from sales. And it happened, and I was like, this is amazing. But then something deep down was still like, I'm just not fulfilled. I'm frustrated. Now I'm leading, others, which they're amazing, but now something just still felt off. And I feel like this is a big part of my story, is being on this personal development journey of searching for answers. Let me fix it. Maybe it's me. If I took on like ownership and responsibility a little too literally, where if they weren't producing or if they weren't succeeding, it's my fault because I'm the leader. They're only as good as, like, you know what I mean? With leadership, we learn so much that it's on us. And so something just still didn't feel right. I switched brokerages last year, and I kind of knew something was going on health-wise, but I didn't know what necessarily. So I kind of kept getting the pull to remove myself more and more. I was hardly involved with the team. It was still running. We were still doing very well. But the fact that it still felt like something was off, I didn't understand why. So the crux of all of it is I actually got diagnosed with MS last summer, multiple sclerosis. It's different for everybody. It really, my ability to work started becoming less and less. Stress became a really big problem in my life. And so I made decisions to say, you know what, health comes first. How can I run this business, this vision of something that does run without requiring my live energy? Because it's different every day. I don't know how it's going to be. And so I made the decision earlier this year to actually completely dissolve my real estate team. I only help a builder now. I'm still doing things, but I'm really kind of operating off work smarter, not harder, and focusing on my podcast and digital products and coaching and kind of getting the message out there, because yes, a health diagnosis led me here, but I was kind of already on this path of how do I build a sustainable business? How do I build something that doesn't 100% rely on my time and energy? Like I was already thinking more passive to begin with. So here we are. It's a lot, but it's also, I see how it's all connected. That makes sense.
I think maybe some of you have heard this example before of the dad or gentleman that was on a train, and he was looking over at the guy whose kids were going crazy. Now, I don't know your kids, so this has nothing to do with you.
My kids are dogs, so we're good.
There we go. See, I told you it wasn't about you. But this guy, he's on the subway, and he's watching these kids just completely go crazy inside of the subway. And he's looking at the dad being like, "Did you control your kids?" And finally he goes over to him and says, "Excuse me, sir. I don't mean to be rude, but your kids are really out of control. Can you help control them? Get them to settle down?" And he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We just left the hospital and their mom passed away, and myself and the kids are still trying to figure out how to deal with it." And it's like, oh my goodness, the whole perspective on what was happening in that guy's life was completely changed. He was given immediate grace. And I think it's interesting because there's a lot of people who I know probably don't know your situation, right? And you continue to operate at a really high level, right? Coaching other professionals. And it only gives us more respect when we know, like, holy cow, like that's what's going on in the background. And so I think if there's one lesson that we can all take away from this to begin with, which is we just need to give like everybody a lot of grace. We don't know what's happening in their lives, and we don't know why they're doing certain things. And probably if we really knew and we understood, that we would probably be a little kinder and really be more supportive of people in the journey that they're on. And so I'm just so impressed by you, because even if you didn't have this diagnosis going on in the background, I'm so impressed with what you've done, right? Building a real estate team, prioritizing your health, pivoting now to where you're coaching and consulting at a high level. And it's amazing, right? So just kudos to you for being somebody who is doing it all despite some difficult circumstances, right? I mean, truly difficult circumstances. So well done on that.
Thank you.
The other thing that I'm really want to delve into and explore is this concept of consistency, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I led in, as I've watched real estate agents, not just real estate agents, but professionals in general.
Yes.
There seems to be people who seem far less talented who still built an incredibly impressive business. And it's like, how did they do that, right? And often people will get into the business because they're like, man, if they can do it, I can do it, right? And they get in and they realize that it's not necessarily raw talent. It's not necessarily like skills from another profession, although sometimes that helps. It really comes down to someone's willingness and ability to be consistent, that there are a dozen ways to build a really powerful real estate business and other types of businesses as well. But there's one thing that holds true, is that the fastest way to do that is actually just to do the kind of mundane, unsexy thing of like, be consistent, choose something and stick with it. So I'm really eager to get into today's episode of talking about what are those 3 keys to consistency. And I want to let everybody know that this is actually an entire course that Melissa has developed, that she's offering at a like a laughable price point, considering the amount of value you've put into this thing, like $37, folks. So if this is of interest to you,
as of today,
right? That's not a long term. So if this topic is interesting to you, and you're like, I need to be more consistent, check in the show notes. We're going to have a link that will actually allow you to capitalize on this, right? To actually go deeper on this topic. But today we're gonna give you some things that you'll be able to walk away with and be better at being consistent than you were before. So with that being said, Melissa, would you mind walking us through what is key number 1 to being more consistent?
So the first key, is there an echo for you, or is it just me?
I can't. Maybe I did that time.
Okay. I'll just keep going. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but we're good. So the first key is why. What is your vision? Why are you doing this? Are you making up goals because they sound good and that's what everyone tells us we should be doing, we're supposed to be doing? So I have, if you haven't picked up yet, I have a very different take on consistency in the first place, because it has a foundation of being clear on your vision. It has a foundation of being clear of what is your, like, what are you looking to build? Because it is so easy to get caught up in what it should look like, what we're supposed to be doing, what it means to be successful. I have to do this to be successful. When's the last time you defined your, like, what is your definition of success? And what is your definition, by the way, of consistency?
I love this because it's funny. This was brought to my attention early in my career that oftentimes we'll set goals, but we're never really asked, tell me why. And
Correct.
Why is that important to you? And why is that important to you? Why is that important? Why is that important? All the way down to where you really realize maybe the motivation isn't that motivating. Maybe it's because somebody told you that you should have that goal, or success looks this way, like what you described. Like maybe it means success in real estate means you have a big team, and you get there and you're like, this actually isn't right now. I'm not saying that was necessarily the case, but I do think that we do tend to set goals based on the opinions of other people, as opposed to asking ourselves the question of what really matters to me. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely. And a big thing behind it is, are you setting goals to prove something? Or are you setting goals because it actually matters and is important to you? And I've been on a proving thing most of my life of, I need to prove I'm good enough. I need to prove I can be successful. I need to prove that I'm, like, my self-worth was so tied to my numbers and achievement, how many transactions I do. And real estate seems to be one of the only industries where you lead with, what's your goal this year? How much income did you do last year? How many deals did you close last year? And there's this, like, I know I should be saying more. I know, like, I've actually had a lot of clients, and this is where this all came from, was seeing a pattern and a theme of, I know I should be doing more. And I'm the one who's going to say, why? Do you need to do more? Well, I know I'm supposed to grow, and I know if I'm not growing, I'm dying, and I can't be complacent, and I got to double my goals. I'm like, is it realistic for you to do that? Do you even have the time to commit? Does your effort match your goals? Or are you comparing to some 100-deal-a-year producer? Your goal's 24. I get really lit up on this if you can't tell. Your goal's 24, and you're beating yourself up because you're not on the phone for 3 hours a day because they are, but you're not. And that doesn't even line up. Like, we're spinning our wheels, and half the time it's not even what you really want. We just made it up because it sounded good, and that's what we should be doing.
Yeah. I have a special interest in this topic. For years, I have walked professionals through a business planning process, and it is interesting when you dig down a little bit deeper to say, what is the life you actually want? Like, tell me, not just the trophy in business, but like from an income, from an independence, like autonomy, from an impact. And those are the 3 I's that I would oftentimes talk about. Is like, what does ideally it look like if you were to, and sometimes the goal they had in mind actually doesn't get them to what they want. And it's like, oh, I thought I wanted that. Right. So I love this concept of really, getting to the heart of, why do you want to do it? It's awesome.
And what got you into this in the first place, right? Was it freedom? Well, what's your definition of freedom? And are you free right now? Or are you working 24/7 because you're in the grind and, like, you lost sight of why you're doing this in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great example right there, right? Because success, I'm getting into this so I have more time for my family, but ultimately I'm working 7 days a week, right? Doesn't mean that you've chosen the wrong industry. It might just be that you've chosen the wrong model, and you've chosen the wrong client expectations and the wrong standards that your clients have come to expect that are unrealistic for a sustainable, healthy life. So I love it. Let's go to point number 2, Melissa. What's the second key to consistency?
What you just said was the absolute perfect segue, because number 2 is how. How do you actually want to do it? To find business, to run your business? How many days do you even want to work? How many days off would you like? When's the last time someone asked you, how would you actually love to talk to people? Because in real estate, and this applies to entrepreneurship, of course, or anyone in sales, service-based, but can we all agree that talking to people will find you more business? So how would you like to talk to them? Would you not like to talk to them and you'd rather buy leads? Would you rather work with people you know? Would you rather work with people you don't know? Like, this is, to me, the real secret to consistency is doing something that actually lights you up and excites you, and not what you should be doing. Well, I'm supposed to be doing open houses. Do you want to? Because have you all like met agents? Because this used to drive me crazy. Why do certain types of business work really well for some people, and then like you do it and it doesn't work at all, or you're like, this isn't it, but I have to. I know it works. I know it's successful. For me, it was like for sale by owners, open houses, and I was like, I don't like this at all. So why am I making this a part of my lead generation? Why am I making this a part of my schedule? Of course, you're not going to do it because you don't actually want to do it. It's like, yeah. So how would you like to, in a way that actually excites you? Because when you tap into your own motivation, you tap into your own, what gives you energy, what excites you, the way you want to do things works and aligns to you. You're inspired to take action. You're inspired to do it. And you don't need accountability. You don't need force, because you actually want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You're right. When you find a passionate person who believes in what they're doing, the energy that attracts, the energy that transmits,
yes,
is nearly invincible, right? You just realize like that person is on fire, and it doesn't matter what they're on fire about. It's just their thing. They're good at it. They love it, right?
Yes.
And so I hear what you're saying is that if you choose the wrong how, that's not aligned with who you are and how you want to do it, then it's going to be a struggle, right? It's going to be a constant like pulling teeth to get yourself to do it, and that's not going to work well, right? It just doesn't work well because it's constantly this uphill battle.
Exactly.
Let's move to point number 3. These have been fantastic. Talk to us about the third point. We've got the why, we've got the how. What is the third key in being more consistent?
So the third is what. What is actually holding you back and preventing you from taking action? Because of course I'm going to go there, right? So the third key is all about what's really going on beneath the surface, because we think, okay, I have to do this, I should do this, and we're following someone else's rules, we're beating ourselves up, we think we need more force, more discipline, more accountability, maybe I'm lazy, maybe I'm not motivated enough, and me at least, this happened to me, where I started blaming myself. Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? I know I need to get on the phones. So why am I avoiding it? Why am I stalling? Why am I getting distracted all of a sudden? And so the third key really goes into understanding mindset, understanding and using NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, to see what your language is saying, what's going on. And I'll give kind of a quick overview. Is it a fear of failure that's actually stopping you? Is it a fear of success, which we don't talk about enough at all, because that sounds counterintuitive? Why would I be afraid of success? Like, bring on the money, bring on the success, like, let's go. Why would I push that away? But what I'll say is, have you ever been overwhelmed where you have so much going on? Your phone's ringing nonstop. Maybe you don't have boundaries. Maybe you don't have systems in place. Maybe you don't have an assistant, or maybe the right assistant, or you're just going nonstop and you're completely drowning. It feels like you're drowning. Subconsciously, we want to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe. So why in the world would I go get more business if I'm so overwhelmed and at my capacity, I feel like I can't handle it? All I want to do is slam on the brake. So if I had a coach at the time who understood this, when I was taking 8 listings for the first time and I was all of a sudden getting all this business and I was freaking out and a mess and things were slipping through the cracks, instead of, hey, Melissa, you're behind on your numbers, let's double down, force, more pressure, more checks if you owe money, if you don't hit your numbers, like, you got to push through this. I completely shut down and was like, I can't handle more. My assistant was messing things up. Like we were a mess. The right question would have been, hold on a second. You're busy right now. You're so overwhelmed. You're obviously not taking action. Let's figure out why. Do you have systems? Are your systems working? Do you have the right admin? Do they need more support? Like, is it a system or a person that's missing? Not go do more and hit your numbers. Like, that doesn't solve anything. In fact, that makes it worse. That's like the worst thing you could do is put pressure when you're already at capacity.
Which is, yeah, really goes against much of the common dogma, right? Which is if you're not doing it, push harder, go, like, as opposed to saying stop for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's actually diagnose maybe what's happening, what's really happening here, right? Even at a psychological level, is there some self-sabotage going on? Is there some real stoppages in the business? Are there some real limitations that we need to fix instead of just pushing through it and burning ourselves and our client base and our reputation and our team out, right? I think sometimes you'll see people that have the mentality, they burn through teammates, right? They burn, and it tends to be very transactional. And now we know why, right? Is because there's not this self-awareness to stop and ask questions to say what could be better before we just plow forward. Like, what's standing in front of the bulldozer, right? What are we going to mow over, and how do we actually maybe redirect our efforts on the right thing? Could be a small tweak that gives us that quantum leap effect. But it's like, oh, all we need to do is fix that, and now all of this is natural. And in our heads, we're like, yes, psychologically we didn't realize it because it was subconscious. But now we're willing to actually go do that extra work because we realize we're not going to have a wake of unhappy customers trailing behind us.
Exactly.
Great stuff. And I'm excited for people to get their hands on this. Remind me where people go to get access to your course.
So you can go to the number 3, keys2consistency.com. You can find it also on my Instagram at Melissa Machat. The link is in my bio. I know you're putting the link in the show notes as well. But yeah, keep it simple. Yeah, 3keys2consistency.com. Super
That's it, folks.
Simple.
Again, of all the things that you could learn, right? Of all the things that you can learn, consistency needs to be a priority, because it doesn't matter how good the widget is. It doesn't matter how good the idea is. If you don't actually apply consistency, none of it will work. But if you apply consistency, all of it could work. So it's time to focus on the root of the problem, not just the branches. So Melissa, always so fun to have you on the show. Let me ask you one last question, which is, you are a big thinker, and you are doing some incredible things and inspiring us with how you're going about doing them amidst your circumstances. What is it that Melissa does to continue to be a big thinker? What does that look like for you?
It is a lot of personal development, growth, consuming, learning, getting myself in rooms with people who are doing insane things. Like, I started actually pivoting to more the online coaching space over the last year or two, kind of learning what was going on there. And I was getting in rooms and mastermind groups and coaching one-on-one with people making millions of dollars from their cell phone and Instagram at home. And I was like, wait, what? This is a thing? What do you mean? I don't understand. Like, so to me, it's always surrounding myself with people who are doing things, that are thinking outside of the box, that are accomplishing things in a way that it just expands your mind. I listened to videos all weekend that were talking about quantum, leaps and physics and like just all sorts of things where it's like, oh, time doesn't exist. What does this mean? Like, I want to learn more. Let me dive into it. So I'm constantly expanding my mind, growing, thinking. But I do want to mention, you also need to be so clear on your vision and what you want that you don't get sucked into, I want what they have, let me go do that, because I did that as well, where, okay, let me go follow this model, let me go do this. It obviously works. And then you forget to check back in with yourself if it's actually aligned to you, which is a lot of what the 3 keys is about too, is getting realigned. That's why my business is actually called Realign. It's getting realigned to your vision, what you want, and making sure you're tapping into your own motivation.
So good, Melissa. Yeah, if you're not aligned, it's kind of like a tire on a car, right? That's like it's just causing more issues and wearing out the tire. So I love it. Great stuff. Thank you so much for all you contributed and continue to contribute to the industry and to this audience, the Think Bigger real estate audience. And I appreciate you. And my final request of everybody listening today are these 3 simple words, and they are go think bigger. Melissa, thanks for helping us to do that today, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Be honest, hearing good ideas is not enough. You have to apply them in order to get the results desired. If you found value in today's episode, then you're really going to love the community of big thinkers and high achievers that we are building in order to help you to apply the principles taught today. If you're not yet a member of Think Bigger Real Estate on Facebook, go sign up now.